doing down there? You're wrecking my whole story. I don't like that story, says the giant. You always trick me. That's the best part, says Jack. Fee, fi, foam, 40. I have made up my own story. Great rhyme, giant, and I'm sure your story is just as good, but there's no room for it. So why don't you climb back up the beanstalk? I'll be up in a few minutes to steal your gold and your singing harp. I'll grind your bones to make my bread. I knew you'd understand. There's been another little thing that's been bugging me. Could you please stop talking in uppercase letters? It's really messing up the page. I will read my story now, says the giant, and he did. The Giant's Story. The end. Of the evil stepmother said, I'll huff and I'll snuff and I'll give you 3 wishes. The beast changed into 7 dwarves happily ever after, for a spell had been cast by the wicked witch once upon a time. That's your story, said Jack. You've got to be kidding. That's not a fairly stupid story. That's an incredibly stupid story. That's an unbelievably stupid story. That's the most stupid tale I've ever... The giant grabbed Jack and dragged him into the next page. Once upon a time, there was a giant. The giant squeezed Jack and said, Tell me a better story or I'll grind your bones to make my bread. And when your story is finished, I will grind your bones to make my bread anyway. Ha ha ha. The giant laughed, an ugly laugh. Jack thought, he'll kill me if I do. He'll kill me if I don't. There's only one way to get out of this. Jack cleared his throat and began his story. Once upon a time, there was a giant. The giant squeezed Jack and said, Tell me a better story, or I will grind your bones to make my bread. And when your story is finished, I will grind your bones to make my bread anyway. Ho, 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 ho. The giant laughed an ugly laugh. Jack thought, he'll kill me if I do. He'll kill me if I don't. There's only one way to get out of this. Jack cleared his voice and began his story. Once upon a time, there was a giant. The giant squeezed Jack and said, Tell me a better story, I will grind your bones to make my bread. And when your story is finished, I will grind your bones to make my bread anyway. Ho, ho, ho. The giant laughed an ugly laugh. Jack thought, he'll kill me if I do, he'll kill me if I don't. There's only one way to get out of this. Tell me a better story, I will grind your bones to make my bread. And when your story is finished, I will grind your bones to make my bread anyway. Ho, ho, ho. The giant laughed an ugly laugh. Jack thought, he'll kill me if I don't, he'll kill me if I do. There's only one way to get out of this. Jack cleared his voice and began his story. Once upon a time, there was a giant. The giant squeezed Jack and Jack said, Tell me a story, or I will grind your bones to make my bread. And when your story is finished, I will grind your bones anyway. Etc., etc. I'm not going over all of it, because that would just be really annoying. Good times, though. Once upon a time, there was a beautiful girl named Cinderella who lived with her wicked stepmother and 2 ugly stepsisters. These step-relatives were not only wicked and ugly, they made Cinderella clean the house every day. One day, the local prince announced he was holding a fabulous ball at his castle. Everybody was invited. The stepmother and stepsisters all got dressed up to go, but as usual, they made Cinderella clean the house, so she didn't have time to get ready. After the stepmother and stepsisters left for the ball, Cinderella sat down and cried. Just then a little man appeared. Please don't cry, he said. I can help you spin straw into gold. I don't think that will do me much good, said Cinderella. I need a fancy dress, glass slippers, and a coach. Would you like to try to guess my name, says the clever little man. Cinderella looks at him. No, not really. Come on. Do you think it's Chester? If you don't have a dress, it doesn't really matter. Oh, just guess my name. Any name. I'm not talking to strangers, said Cinderella, and then she closed the door, and the little man standing outside, screaming, Rumpelstiltskin, Rumpelstiltskin, Rumpelstiltskin. When the stepmother and stepsisters got home from the ball, Cinderella told them about the stranded little man, and they still made her clean the house. And meaner still, they changed her name to Cinderrumpelstiltskin. The end. Once upon a time, there was a tortoise who was very slow but very dependable. He would always get where he set out to go. It just took him longer than most people. One day, Rabbit saw a tortoise walking slowly but surely down the road and said, Tortoise, you are so slow I could probably grow hair faster than you can run. Oh yeah, said the tortoise slowly. Yeah, says the rabbit. So they decided to race.
Thank you for calling Barnes & Noble. This is Jessica speaking. How can I help you?
On the day of the race, Tortoise and the rabbit lined up in starting line. And now said, On your mark, get steady, grow. The tortoise started to run. Rabbit started growing his hair. The tortoise ran, and Rabbit grew his hair. The tortoise ran, Rabbit grew his hair. 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 The tortoise ran, and Rabbit grew his hair. Tortoise is still running, and Rabbit is still growing his hair. The end. Once upon a time, there was a little old woman and a little old man who lived together in a little old house. They were lonely, so the little old lady decided to make a man out of stinky cheese. She gave him a piece of bacon for a mouth and 2 olives for eyes, and put him in the oven to cook. When she opened the oven to see if he was done, the smell knocked her back. "Phew! What is that terrible smell?" she cried. The Stinky Cheeseman hopped out of the oven and ran out the door calling, "Run, run, run as fast as you can. You can't catch me, I'm the Stinky Cheeseman." The little old lady and the little old man sniffed the air. "I'm not really that hungry," says the little old man. "I'm not really all that lonely," says the little old lady. So they just didn't chase the Stinky Cheeseman. The Stinky Cheeseman ran around till he met a cow eating grass in the field. "Wow, what is that awful smell?" says the cow. The Stinky Cheeseman said, "I'll run away from a little old lady and a little old man. I can run away from you, I can. Run, run, run as fast as you can. You can't catch me, I'm the Stinky Cheeseman." The cow gave another sniff and said, "I bet you could give someone 2 or 3 stomach aches. I think I'll just eat weeds." So the cow didn't chase the Stinky Cheeseman either. The Stinky Cheeseman ran and ran until he met some kids playing outside. "Gross," says the little girl. "What's that nasty smell?" "I've run away from a little old lady and a little old man and a cow. I can run away from you too, I can. Run, run, run as fast as you can. You can't catch me, I'm the Stinky Cheeseman." The little boy looked up and sniffed the air and said, "If we catch him, our teacher will probably make us eat him. Let's get out of here." So the kids didn't chase after the Stinky Cheeseman either. By and by, the Stinky Cheeseman came to a river with no bridge. "How will I ever cross the river? It's too big to jump, and if I try to swim across it, I'll probably fall apart," says you-know-who. Just then, the sly fox, who shows up in a lot of these stories, pokes his head out of the bushes. "Why, just hop on my back, and I'll carry you across, Stinky Cheeseman. How do I know you won't eat me?" "Trust me," says the fox. So the Stinky Cheeseman hops on the fox's back. The fox swam to the middle of the river and said, "Oh man, what is that funky smell?" The fox coughed, gagged, and sneezed, and the Stinky Cheeseman flew off his back into the river, where he fell apart. The end. Shh, be very quiet. I moved the end page here so the giant would think the book is over. The big lug is finally asleep. Now I can sneak out of here. Just turn the page very quietly, and that will be the... I found the weed, I planted the weed, I grew the weed, I harvested the weed, I ground the wheat, I made the dough, I baked the bread, said the little red hen. And did anyone help me? Did anyone save space for my story? So now, said the little red hen, who thinks they're going to help me eat the bread? Bread, said the giant. Eat, says the giant. The end. Alright, I love you, and I hope you have a good night.